Welcome to the Second Tier Podcast. I'm Ryan Dilks, and I'm joined by the baby shark to my Billy Sharp. It's Justin Peach.
Good day to you, Ryan.
A very, very good day to you, Justin Peach. Do you mind if we start things off with a question? Seems to be the thing that we do now on the midweek episodes.
I mean, if I say no, you're still going to ask it me anyway because it's in your routine, it's in your running order, and if I say no, you're just going to crack on anyway because you're the host. You do what you want to do, Ryan.
Good. What connects former Cardiff and current Derby County defender Curtis Nelson, Michael Owen, and Danny Dyer?
Do they all like trance music?
They may very well. I highly doubt Michael Owen likes trance music. But what I was looking for was they all have family members who have been on Love Island. Curtis Nelson is the brother of Wes Nelson. Michael Owen is the dad of Gemma Owen. Danny Dyer is the dad of Danny Dyer.
I don't watch Love Island, so I couldn't tell you if that's a fact or not. But I can't get my head out of Michael Owen at a rave with a whistle in his mouth and glow sticks in each hand.
He would be so boring at a rave, wouldn't he? He wouldn't have glow sticks and a whistle in his hands. You know, the light up in the dark paint all over his body. He'll just be standing there going, "Well, this is all a bit loud, isn't it?"
Yeah, and then telling people that he's only watched 6 movies in his life, and that he's probably pulled a hamstring as well because rave music, I imagine, is quite quite high tempo.
Yeah, well, I don't think you're wrong there, Justin. The movie thing, the fact that he's only watched 6 movies in his life still blows my mind.
It's ridiculous.
To this day. Like how?
I have movie posters behind my head at the moment. I've got 2 movie posters behind my head. I've got one next to me. I'm obsessed with films. How can you not love cinema? You have to be incredibly boring and have absolutely no soul not to like cinema.
Apparently he just watched it and he said it's too long.
What? He plays football. It's 90 minutes. You could be stood around for 60 minutes without touching the ball, especially as a poacher. So how can you say watching a film is boring? Come on, Michael.
Yeah. Well, he's not the most charismatic person on earth. I think everyone knows that by this point. May I say how wonderful it is to be talking about club football again, because for me, this international break feels like it's lasted a lifetime. And as far as international breaks go, this is my most despised one, the one that is at the very start of the season. Because it's just like 5 games into the season, football's getting back up and running, and then bang, here's a pointless friendly and a fairly meaningless qualifier from an England perspective.
It is a pointless friendly. I thought the England-Scotland game was had a bit more to it, but it was literally just a friendly, a glorified friendly, as was every other fixture pretty much throughout the last couple of weeks, other than the qualifiers. So you are right; it is a pointless week. You may as well just get them all in October and November when winter does come. The pitches get chewed up. They need a couple of weeks. It's a natural break, and obviously we've gone through a summer of quietness. So just having 6 weeks.
Justin, I don't want international breaks at all. I hate international breaks so much. I cannot recall the last time I watched an England game that was outside of a major tournament.
You're an armchair fan.
I just don't watch him. I'm just not that bothered. What is the point in watching England thump Gibraltar or something like that? I just don't see the point, because England, vast majority of the time, cruise through the qualifiers, the friendlies. Who wants to watch an international friendly? It's pointless.
Yeah, but you like to hate, you like to moan, so why not watch this friendly and be disappointed at the fact that Gareth Southgate hasn't started every single attacker in his roster? Because that's what the world wants.
Justin, I may not watch the games. I can still moan about them. I was freely moaning about Jordan Henderson getting a call-up, because Jordan Henderson getting a call-up for the most recent international games is just ridiculous. He's playing in a league that's a lower standard than the Championship, but Gareth Southgate refuses to call up Championship players. Makes no sense.
Makes no sense. Who would get in the England team from the Championship, though, ahead of Jordan Henderson, let's say?
Now you're asking. You've really put me on the spot there. I mean, last season, a good example would have been Ryan Giles, because Southgate was even saying himself that the left-back options at his disposal were not very good, so he may have to get down to the Championship. Well, yeah, and now Rico Henry would be ahead of Ryan Giles, obviously. But, I mean, Ryan Giles was playing out of his skin last season.
Gabriel Sara capped by Brazil. He's got another 3-4 years of citizenship, hasn't he, before he can
I'm not sure
apply.
he has any, great-grandparents who are from St Albans or something like that.
I can't remember how many days it is, but you can stay, obviously, in the country for a certain amount of time and then apply for citizenship. So maybe in 4 years' time we could see Gabriel Sara lining up in an England shirt, although maybe by that point he's past his peak.
I'm not sure that's going to happen. I mean, when you look at the young talent in the Championship right now, Joe Bellingham, Chris Rigg, just some players off the top of my head who I imagine will go on to play for England at some point. I mean, you talk about players who are in the Championship right now, maybe should be playing closer to the England fold. Taylor Harwood-Bellis. I'll keep ringing that doorbell, ladies and gentlemen. Get him in the squad.
Jesus, yeah, no, you're gonna.
It makes more sense than Harry Maguire, Justin.
Well, maybe it does. But Harwood-Bellis isn't playing top flight football. Harry Maguire is.
Neither's Jordan Henderson.
That's a good point.
And I will also point out, Harry Maguire is not playing top flight football. He's sat on the bench watching top flight football.
Yeah, we can rumble on about this debate for a long old time. We should probably talk about Championship football.
Because it's not a debate to be had at all. Jordan Henderson and Harry Maguire simply should not be in England squad. Before we move on, I will just say the abuse Harry Maguire's been getting, bang out of order. Completely agree with that. But at the same time, I also agree he shouldn't be anywhere near the England squad because it makes an absolute joke of the whole thing if he is getting called up.
Well, I disagree to some extent. I do
Why?
think it's worth... Because I think we're short of options and he's got international experience and that goes a long way in international football. I don't want to explain it because it's going to take me ages.
Fikayo Tomori, who was voted one of the best defenders in Serie A last season, yet Maguire's getting called up ahead of him. It makes no sense whatsoever. Anyway, shall we talk about Championship football? Welcome to the number one Championship podcast, the second tier. Thank you for joining us wherever you are. Yes, we do talk about Championship football or not, England and international friendlies and all that bollocks. What we're going to be doing is making our predictions ahead of the weekend. We'll also talk about some of the news from the past few days. Plenty of news for us to catch up on after our 2 episodes which have just gone out about the transfer window, where we didn't talk about any news, so we've got to catch up on all the bits that we missed out there. Then we'll finish off with Scott High or Ryan Lowe right at the end of the show. So let's have a look ahead to the weekend. And in each preview episode of the second tier, Justin and I will each pick a banker, a team we think is guaranteed to win this coming weekend, as well as an outsider. So someone we think is guaranteed to win, but is bigger odds, or someone we think is going to win, but is bigger odds with the bookies than their opponents. We're tracking how we do as the season goes on. 1 point for a correct banker, 2 points for an outsider. Whoever loses has to do a forfeit, which will be a CrossFit workout for myself, while Justin has to do a coach trip from Sunderland to Plymouth and back. The score for the season is 7-4 to myself after Sunderland had thumped Southampton 2 weeks ago. That was my outsider, and the only correct prediction by either Justin or myself. A pretty mad weekend in terms of results, mind you, so I don't think it was a disgrace that we only got one correct result there. 7-4 though, Justin. Have you already started to plan how you're going to pass the time on that journey from Sunderland to Plymouth?
Yeah, I'm going to download Doodle Jump on my iPhone and relive my glory years as a teenager.
Days. Yeah, Doodle Jump was a classic, wasn't it? That one where you're running along, jumping over hurdles and collecting coins along the way. What was that one called? Temple Run, was it?
Temple Run, that's the badger. Yeah,
good old days.
Yeah,
I'm sure that'll pass the time quite easily. Anyway, Justin, let's see if you can try and claw things back. What is your banker in the Championship this weekend?
Yeah, this was a really difficult week to pick a banker. I've gone with Blackburn to win at home to Middlesbrough. Yeah, again, as I say, it's a really difficult week, but I think when you consider both sides are actually pretty decent going forwards in terms of creating chances, it's quite a difficult game to predict this one. But I think Blackburn are in a slightly better state than Middlesbrough. Obviously, the international break does throw a lot of uncertainty in there because managers get a couple of weeks with their own players, and that's going to help matters for both Michael Carrick and Jon Dahl Tomasson. But it comes down to Blackburn impressing me over the first 5 or 6 games. Their chance creation in games throughout the season so far has been pretty good. They've been far more productive when it comes to creating now this season than they were at this time last year. I think that they're missing that finishing touch at the moment. Niall Ennis is injured. And obviously Ben Brereton Diaz left. He probably would have made a world of difference in that starting 11, and he would have certainly been putting away some of the chances they have been creating. But for me, they've got a chance to rightly display against Plymouth, obviously losing 3-0 before the international break. And they're going to cause Borough a lot of issues, who have defensive problems of their own. We know this. New signing Telelovic might be coming in. He played an hour in a behind the closed doors friendly, so he could remedy that lack of clinical goal scorer in the final third for Blackburn. So yeah, going for Blackburn to beat Middlesbrough.
Yeah, I find Middlesbrough to be a confusing beast. I still maintain they are playing well despite being bottom of the table. They just cannot find the back of the net. And I do think it is only a matter of time before everything clicks and they start getting points on the board. But whether that happens this weekend or not, I'm not sure. It is hard to get encouraged about them meeting pre-season expectations over the quality of that attack. And as far as Blackburn go, I've liked what I've seen of Blackburn so far. They're playing much better than they were last season. We won't bring up last season again. So I can quite feasibly see them beating Middlesbrough here. I think the 3-0 thumping that they took at the hands of Plymouth just before the international break was a scoreline which didn't properly reflect the game, I think. I think Blackburn were a lot better than 3-0 suggests. And I think a lot of this game will depend on whether Borough have packed their shooting boots for that trip across the Pennines.
Is it across the... Yeah, I think it's across the Pennines. What was that stat that we released about Sonny Dieng as well on Twitter, about him conceding chances?
Yeah, so his save percentage is something like 31%, which is not great. Save percentage, for those who don't know, is shots on target a goalkeeper faces and goals conceded. So he's only saved 31% of the shots on target so far for Borough.
So for a misfiring Blackburn, just get a shot on target and you've got a 70% chance of scoring, right? Basic maths.
Yes, I suppose if you look at it that way. I'm not sure it's a 70% chance because I think Sonny Dieng is a better goalkeeper than that stat suggests, but I don't think he's had a great start, to be fair.
But Blackburn can take advantage of it, like they can take advantage of Middlesbrough's poor defensive units at the moment. Lewis O'Brien coming in might cause that to be not as simple for Blackburn, but I do think they're in a probably better state than Middlesbrough, a more balanced state than Middlesbrough, I think I'll say.
Yeah, I think it's hard to disagree with that, Justin. It will help if Emmanuel Latte-Lath has a better game than he did before the international break as well. My banker of the weekend in the Championship is Ipswich to win away at Sheffield Wednesday. I seem to pick Ipswich quite a lot in our predictions.
Oh, what a surprise.
But they're by and large doing the business for me, so why not? 4 wins from 5 for Ipswich. They've been one of the most impressive teams in the division so far, arguably the most, and I think they'll do the business again this weekend. Of course, these two got promoted together last season, but as we all know, a lot has changed since last season. Wednesday have had an absolute nightmare summer in terms of managers, recruitment, owner, and results so far. In fairness, Wednesday have been getting better. They only lost to Cardiff because of a last-minute penalty, which was debatable. They drew with Leeds and possibly even could have won that one. So I don't think this would be as much of a walkover as it probably would have been if this game was played 4 weeks ago. But ultimately, Ipswich are just a much better side. They've been so efficient so far, the second most goals scored in the league, as well as the second most expected goals for. A bit of a concern conceding 6 in the last 2 games, but I think that is only a blip. Plus, Wednesday have only scored 4 so far and have looked organised but toothless, I say. So I can only see this being an Ipswich win. People may say, oh, Ryan Dilks talking about Ipswich again. They can all fuck off. I'm here to pick a banker, and Kieran McKenna's boys are the standout team for me of the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, my other banker would be picking Ipswich because that's a given, isn't it? It is boring, and it is getting to Jay from in between his levels. Where they take the piss out of Simon for always talking about Carly. It's that sort of link up and association you have now. Exactly, you've nailed that, and I think maybe next time when you bring them up, I am gonna hit you with that because it's gonna come up very soon, I imagine, but. That being said, it is really hard to disagree with you. I think both teams are just in a completely different world when it comes to expectation, quality on the pitch, and, well, where they're heading, essentially. I do think Sheffield Wednesday are on an upward trajectory in terms of performances, albeit it is a 3% incline.
Yeah, it's a very small small incline, isn't it?
It's a curb height level of jumping up, isn't it? But as I say, they were terrible in the first 4 games, but the last 2 games leading up to the international break has been incrementally, ever so slightly, a tiny bit better than it was the week before last, etc. So I am going to take some positivity there. But like I said, you pointed out Sheffield Wednesday are toothless going forwards. Might be a good time to play Ipswich, consider they conceded 6 goals in the last 2 games, but you've got to be having a really good day, and I think Ipswich are probably going to have a better day than Wednesday in that sense. They're more likely to have a better day than Wednesday, I think is what I'm trying to say.
My outsider in the Championship this weekend is Birmingham to win away at Watford. I was astonished to see Watford as the odds-on favourites for this one. I think they deserve to be favourites because of home advantage, but I'm not as strong on them as the bookies are by any means. That's mainly because I'm hugely excited about what's going on at Birmingham City. One of only 2 sides to be unbeaten after 5 games, 3 wins to their name. They've been playing really well. All the new signings have taken to John Eustace's game like a duck to water, and simply put, Birmingham are flying. And they're a team I would not want to be facing right now. Watford have been going through a bit of a sticky patch after thumping QPR in the opening weekend. They look good against Coventry, particularly with the new boy, big Mileta Rajovic up front. He looks like he's more a Valerian Ishmael striker than what they've been using already. And they probably should have won that game against Coventry if they didn't shoot themselves in the foot. So there's a sign, there is signs of promise at Watford. I'm not particularly feeling down on them. I'm just more excited about Birmingham than Watford in the case of this game. So that's why I've gone with Birmingham as my outsider for the weekend.
I think this one's impossible to predict. I really like the way both sides are setting up in games at the moment. Birmingham are very practical under John Eustace, and Watford have been defensively brilliant but lacking that clinical touch. They showed it in Coventry, but they also showed what they shouldn't do defensively. So you can take positives out of that game, but you can also very much point at the negatives. I would fancy. I think if ever there was going to be a draw in the league this weekend, it's going to be this game. I find it so hard to predict. But if you're looking at Birmingham, you're looking at a team who are more likely to take the chances, probably with Birmingham. But that being said, have they faced a challenge like Watford yet? Defensively, arguably not. So that could shift it in Watford's favour. But I can't not sit on the fence with this one. That's double negative. That's terrible from me. I find it difficult to remove myself from the fence on this one.
I'm not sure I'd agree with you on have they faced a threat like Watford yet. I mean, they've faced Leeds so far, Justin. I mean, Plymouth are quite good going forwards, as we've seen so far. So I'd say those teams are probably... Well, Leeds certainly are. Plymouth possibly are ahead of Watford in terms of their attack. But I can see where you're coming from, because Watford, they're proving to be a decent side, aren't they? And once Valerian Ishmael has got his team settled, the results will probably improve. But with that being said, let's go to your outsider, Justin. What have you gone for in the weekend?
Yeah, I was surprised to see West Brom as slight favourites for this one. So I've gone with Bristol City to win at home against West Brom. And like I said, Bristol City have been chipping away at things quite nicely. It's been a nice flow into the season. The games have been tight, which probably works in their favour, especially at home, especially coming into this game against West Brom. But Bristol City so far have been a lot better away from home than they have been at Ashton Gate. They've conceded more chances than creating at home, which gives the indication that they're yet to really get going. So what better way to get the season started on home soil than straight after an international break. So I do think it's an important one for Nigel Pearson to kickstart that home form. And if you can kickstart that home form, you can probably kickstart the season, which is not a bad thing considering how steady they've been to the campaign so far. And I think this is about the same time last year that I got carried away with Bristol City, or maybe a couple of weeks difference. So again, what better way to start then, or what better way to kick off the games after the international break than to get on the Bristol City into the playoffs hype train. But I think, again, this one, difficult to predict. Bristol City are yet to win at home, West Brom are yet to win away. But Bristol City, I think, have got a little bit more guile about them, especially under Nigel Pearson, than maybe West Brom do in the final third.
I do think West Brom have been a tad fortunate so far. And if I'm looking at these two teams and putting them side by side, I think they are at a similar level, really. So I'm not going to disagree with you on this pick, Justin. I just think they're two very mid-table sides. A result either way is entirely plausible. Let's take a quick break. After that, we'll talk about some of the news from the past few days, including a new signing at Ipswich Town. Welcome back to the Second Tier Podcast, and now it's time for this. Yes, it's time for the news. And Ipswich have signed ex-Manchester United defender Axel Tuanzebe on a one-year deal. The 25-year-old left Old Trafford this summer and had been training with the club a week before joining. I think this could be an unbelievable signing, Justin.
I'm a little bit more on the other side of it. I think it represents quite a high-risk deal. He's 25 years old and played less than 100 games in his entire career so far, and comes with an injury record that isn't massively forgiving. Okay, you're getting him on a free transfer and a one-year deal, so there's low risk there, but is he going to play more than 25 games this season? History tells me no.
Where's the risk?
Well, it's a one-year deal. I didn't say there was risk.
You said it was quite a high-risk deal.
Okay, it's a high-risk deal in the sense that you've got an extra centre-back. I probably worded it poorly. It's a low-risk deal, but I just see it as a pointless signing, if I'm being honest.
Really? I think that's very harsh, Justin. I mean, Kieran McKenna has said they need to build him back up and get him back to his best condition. So it could take a bit of time before we see him playing regularly in an Ipswich shirt. But it could be an unbelievable bit of business. I remember there was a spell 2 or 3 years ago when Tuanzebe was playing brilliantly for Man United in the Europa League, and people were saying he's earned the chance to play more for them in the league. Unfortunately, it didn't work out that way. However, there's definitely a very good player there. We saw that when he was playing regularly for Villa in their promotion. He was superb. And now, I will admit, he's not had a lot of game time recently. He's only played 5 games last season, 13 the season before that. So that is a concern. But Ipswich are a very smartly run club. Kieran McKenna knows him well, having worked with him at Man U. And they wouldn't have signed him if they thought he was a lost cause and couldn't get him back to his best. I think this would have been a brilliant signing for any Championship side, and even a decent move for some Premier League teams. I think Luton were trying to sign him at one point in the summer, and I imagine plenty of other clubs were having a sniff around him as well. Interesting that he's only joined on a one-year deal, but I completely disagree with you, Justin. I think this is a brilliant bit of business.
I look at Jack Simpson. I know it's slightly different because then they're on completely different realms in terms of quality and output, but Jack Simpson played a limited. I think when he joined Cardiff, I questioned it because he played. I think it was either less than 100 or 150 career games at that point, joining Cardiff last season, and it was a one-year deal or a 2-year deal, low contract. But it's one of those where I go, one, do you really need him? 2, is he really going to bring more to that defence than what you've got now? I don't think Tuanzebe will. Yeah, but based on what? Based on what?
Because he was playing regularly for Man United in the Europa League at one point before injuries did catch up with him. He's only 25 years old now.
Season.
Yeah, but when he got promoted with Villa, when he was still, 20s, 21, whatever, he was superb for them then. So there's clearly a very talented player in there. So what? He's 25 now.
He's 25 and he's played less. I think he's played 90 games in his career so far. I just cannot see this as a worthwhile deal. Yeah, fair enough. It's a free transfer and he adds depth to the squad. But is he going to get in ahead of the players that they've got there now? I don't think so. I think the Kieran McKenna factor probably plays a lot in this because I imagine they cross paths at Manchester United. Fair enough, and him knowing him's going to play a big role in maybe getting more out of him. But are there better free agents out there? They're probably not, but I maybe would have waited till January to get a player on loan. I don't see the point in it.
I'm baffled that you're thinking that, Justin, and looking forward to see how he does. Maybe injuries will catch up with him, but I think you doubting his quality as a player is absolutely bizarre. Let's move on to the Daily Mail, which is reporting Birmingham boss John Eustace is an early contender to be the new Rangers manager should Mick Beale get sacked after the poor start to the season. So the Scottish side are said to be keen to get in another up-and-coming coach if they do pull the trigger on Beale. What did you make of this, Justin?
I was surprised given that the Beale situation isn't quite working. Why would you then go for another up-and-coming, relatively inexperienced manager in John Eustace if the one that you appointed just less than a year ago isn't quite working out? Logically, it makes no sense, but then Rangers aren't not the best run club in the way of managerial decisions. Beale wasn't ready for Rangers. He was very early on in his managerial career, and for me, he's fucked it completely by making that decision. John Eustace is a smart guy. He's a year ahead of Beale in terms of experience. I don't think he's quite ready for that type of job just yet. So for me, I would stay put if an approach was made from Rangers, because I think you're at Birmingham City where the project is new, it's exciting, and you've got a brand new squad to work with. Deliver top half this season, see where your stock is. I think you're better off staying at Birmingham City, John Eustace.
Yeah, I think it would be a bad move for Eustace personally. The appeal of managing Rangers is obvious. You're in charge of a massive club. You've got European football, probably get a big pay rise as well. I won't blame him if he did go. However, the expectations there are gigantic. And it basically comes down to, if you don't win the league, you're not far off getting the sack. And it seems like Rangers are quite a way behind Celtic as a football club right now. So the chances of being a success there are currently quite slim, I say, which is why I wouldn't want to trade in being in charge of Birmingham City if I was John Eustace. They've had one of the most incredible transfer windows I can ever recall at this level, and the new owners are clearly very ambitious. Birmingham are a club massively on the up. The project there is hugely exciting. And if you're looking at it from a John Eustace perspective, his stock as a manager is more likely to get to a really high level if he sticks with Birmingham than go to Rangers, in my view. Just because the chance of being a success at Rangers, I think, it's going to be a tough job, I think, if he does go there. So I would say stay. But if the interest from Rangers does become genuine, I think he'll probably leave, because it's quite rare for football managers to think about the long-term picture.
Well, exactly. It's
good example of that's Mick Beale.
I was literally about to say Mick Beale is like the prime example of not thinking the next job after the next one, if that makes sense. So thinking after that Rangers job, where can you go after that? And you look at Steven Gerrard, who went to Aston Villa, and it was probably a step too far for him. It's a very unique, very talented set of managers who can go from the top of the SPL into a Premier League role, for example. Ange Postecoglou is a good example of it. There are other examples, Brendan Rodgers going to Leicester and being a success before getting sacked, obviously. So there are very unique examples, but you've got to be a very, very good coach to do it. So I can only see him going to Rangers and then maybe coming back to Championship. I wouldn't see it as a step up. I'd say stay at Birmingham, do well, and then see what happens next year.
Well, according to The Telegraph, a familiar face could be the man to replace Eustace if he does indeed go. DC United boss Wayne Rooney has been identified as a leading contender, with the Birmingham hierarchy keen to make a big name appointment, according to reports. His contract at DC expires in December. Would he be a good replacement, Justin Peach?
I don't think he would. I think quite a lot of people say I'm being bitter, but you've got to look at this practically. Liam Rossini was the brains behind the style of play at Derby. That slick passing football that we've seen clips of. The goal against Barnsley, for example, that goes around, is one of those. And Liam Rossini, you can tell with his style of football at Hull, was very much the brains behind, what Rooney was trying to achieve.
How do you know that though, Justin? How do you know that Wayne Rooney was just kind of the figurehead of it all, and Liam Rossini was the man who was actually pulling the strings? How do you know that?
Because there are two types of managers. There are the managers who delegate. Your Sir Alex Ferguson's, your I'm trying to think of others off the top of my head, but I can't. And then there are managers who coach. Liam Rossini is the coach. Rooney was very much not the organizer, but the motivator. Harry Redknapp's another example of that, and I think Rooney fits into that old school style because of his time under Sir Alex Ferguson. And as well as that, you can just tell by the way they break down the game in their post-match press conferences and how they talk about the game. Liam Rossini is far more tactile, and the way.
Are you just saying that though because it's Wayne Rooney and he's a big name who's decided to become a manager, because I feel like you maybe just kind of like pigeonholing him as in the same category as, you know, Frank Lampard, Steven Gerrard, those kind of people.
Yeah, but you can even look at it, the determined success of each of the next role. For example, Liam Rossini is doing very well at Hull at the moment. He's 6-7 defeats in 30-odd games. It's an incredible run. Wayne Rooney's mid-table MLS side at the moment. I know it's
different kettle of fish, though.
I know it's a different kettle of fish, but again, he's not really set the world alight as a manager over there. They finished bottom last season, or they think he took over halfway through or whatever, and now they're mid-table in the Eastern Conference, so they're nowhere near getting into that playoff region. So I look at the success of that and I think not really great. And again, I think as well, does he carry that same talismanic aura about him that he did as a player, that he does as a manager? I don't think he does, and I think the time at Derby probably lends into that. If he'd have kept Derby up, then maybe I'd have more excitement about it.
Justin, though, that was impossible to keep Derby up, wasn't it?
I did it on Football Manager several times.
Well, that's... In real life, though, that was impossible to do, wasn't it? He did a remarkable job that season. You've got to give him credit for that.
Yeah, fantastic. Did a great job, but ultimately you are judged purely on the end outcome. And unfortunately, Derby got relegated. It's harsh, but that's football. You're judged on the end outcome. You don't get medals for... You don't get medals for fighting against adversity in football.
It was just about impossible to keep Derby up that season.
It was. You're absolutely spot on it. And like I said, did a remarkable job of fighting it. But there were a lot of factors that worked against him. The away form was dreadful, for example. Never remedied it.
Yeah. No money as well was another big factor.
A lot of teams probably had lower budgets than Derby that season. And still
I'm not sure they did, because they had to sell basically everyone.
They had to sell players, but I think the wage budget was still more than competitive in that division. Now, I'm probably being too harsh, but you're asking for responses to, for a debate, and that's absolutely fine. But I just don't think Rooney's a good replacement for John Eustace. And I think Liam Rossini, without a good coaching team behind him, I don't think he can be a success in the Championship.
Well, I'm split, because I think it's very hard to judge Rooney as a manager. His first season at Derby was quite poor, nearly getting them relegated. Second season was remarkable because he nearly kept Derby up despite a 21-point deduction. So many corresponding factors have to be considered as well when judging those two seasons. So I don't think anyone can say for sure whether he's a good or bad manager based off that Derby spell. He wouldn't be my first choice to replace Eustace if he does indeed go, but I wouldn't put him down as a bad appointment. I think a lot of people will just look at him and say, oh, it's Wayne Rooney, he doesn't need to be a manager, he's just doing it because he's bored or something like that. And I do think he gets unfairly pigeonholed in that sense, in the same category as your Steven Gerrards, your Frank Lampards, etc. At the same time, I will accept that his spell at Derby had a lot of lows as well as a few highs as well. So, yeah, I'm not sure what to make of the appointment. If that does happen, it's only reported at this point, of course. Sunderland Nation is reporting the Black Cats turned down the opportunity to take back Amad Diallo this summer. The club decided to wait for him to complete his recovery from injury at Manchester United and will try to do a deal in January. I was hoping Sunderland might sneakily try to sign him on deadline day, even though he is injured, but I suppose it's probably sensible to wait until he's fit, isn't it? The thing is, this report came out last week, and now, as I'm sure everyone is aware, Manchester United are without many right-wing options for various different reasons. And if Amad Diallo was fit right now, I'd say there's probably a very good chance he'd be playing quite a few games for Man U in the next few weeks. So, in a way, this injury might be a good thing for Sunderland because it keeps him out of the first-team picture at Man U. Having said that, if there was an injury to start with, Sunderland could have signed him in the first place because it didn't seem like he was going to get a game a few weeks ago. So who knows what the picture will look like come January, but I would love to see him back in a Sunderland shirt, Justin.
Yeah, absolutely. He's got this incredible ability to cut in from the left and take the game by the scruff of the neck, hasn't he? He's fantastic technically. And he was able to grow physically into the Championship. I think he proved a lot of doubt was wrong last year as well, which was brilliant. And it'd be nice to see him back in a Championship. Will it happen? I'd be surprised. I really would. But then again, Sunderland have pulled so many rabbits out of the hat over the last 12 months recruitment wise, they could pull out another in January. But if there was a lot of clubs financially in a good position, certainly would be getting in a queue to sign him, because he's got it all technically. He just needs to carry on growing.
The thing is, I'd be agreeing with you. I don't think it would be realistic for Sunderland to get him back, because it just doesn't really make sense for him to be playing in the Championship. But he seems to genuinely love Sunderland. And I can't recall too many young players who have gone on loan to a club, gone back to their parent club, who have said, right, we're probably going to loan you out again, maybe to a Premier League club. And then the player turns around and says, no, I want to go back to the Championship and play for them again. Because he's clearly too good for the Championship, but he doesn't seem to mind playing at this level if he's playing for a club he loves playing for and is enjoying his football. And I think that's really nice to see, because it doesn't happen very often, if at all, nowadays. So if he does come back in January, that will be a ridiculous marquee move for Sunderland, won't it? Be an absolute game changer as far as they're concerned. Delia Smith is no longer the majority shareholder of Norwich City. It's after American businessman Mark Atanasio increased his ownership stake in the club to achieve parity with her and her husband. The Milwaukee Brewers owner now has a 40% stake in the club, which is the same as Delia. Seems like only a matter of time, really, doesn't it, before Atanasio is the majority owner there, Justin, which I think is good news, because he's a very wealthy man, apparently worth around £600 million, and Norwich have needed extra investment for a long time, haven't they?
Yeah, it's that opportunity to potentially take Norwich to that next level. No, we're not sort of talking about spending millions and millions and millions, but you're more likely to write off debt when you've got a lot more money behind you than someone who doesn't have that much money behind them. And as I say, it's a good thing for Norwich. Sadly, Delia Smith doesn't quite have the football wealth needed to make a club competitive in the Premier League. Not many rich people do, which is weird saying it, but they just don't. You need a lot of money. And to Stuart Webber's credit, the bouncing between the Championship and the Premier League has masked over that resource issue. So yeah, this will be a positive step, but certainly sad, because Delia Smith has been a brilliant custodian of Norwich City.
Yeah, and I suppose she's a bit of a joke figure for opposition fans, but Norwich supporters have a lot of respect for her, because she's done a lot for the club over the past 25 years or so. So I think if she does eventually get edged out of the picture, will have a lot of respect from Norwich fans, won't she? Look, Norwich have needed extra investment, because the last 3 times they've got to the Premier League, their seasons just didn't get going because their pockets weren't deep enough. That and Stuart Webber's recruitment being well off in the case of the last 2 times. So it's blatantly obvious that they've needed wealthier owners, and it's good that it's finally happening. It's a bit sad that it's kind of an end of an era with Delia going out of the picture, and I imagine when she does go, quite a few people will be wondering, where are you? Preston's mascot, the Deepdale Duck, is being retired. It's because the man who's been in the role for 27 years, Simon Nash, has decided to retire himself. It's because he became ill last year and was unable to attend home matches, so has stepped away from the role. The club say it wouldn't feel right to continue having the Deepdale Duck at matches without Simon, so the mascot will be retired completely. Of course, we send our best wishes to Simon, but sad news for the Deepdale Duck, Justin. It got me wondering, what's your favourite club mascot? Of course, apart from Rami at Derby.
Bloody Rami. I'm going to go with Boilerman at West Brom. I don't think Boilerman is a active figure at the Hawthorns now, but a few years back, yeah, I thought it was an incredible step forward in the mascot game. We've Animal Kingdom, it's all out there. Every single bird, an owl, swan is a swan, owl is an owl, for example, but a boiler, it's fucking badass, right? It can heat, it can do damage if you don't service it once a year, and it's metal. We don't see enough boilers as mascots now, or household appliances.
Imagine if, I know, Stoke next week rocked up with a dishwasher.
A pot. a big
crockery,
pot. Big piece of crockery, or vacuum. Underrepresented house appliance, I think, in football. Henry Hoover somewhere. Incredible.
It is a lot funnier, isn't it, when a mascot is an inanimate object. I think it should happen a lot more, like Krusty the Pie at Wigan, for example. That was superb. Or that, do you remember that Partick Thistle mascot, which
terrifying.
which looked
absolutely terrifying.
Looked like something out of a child's nightmare. It was just
Like
awful.
Lisa Simpson, but if you're on a bad trip.
Lisa Simpson on tons and tons of meth. That's what it looked like. If you haven't seen it, please search it out. I also liked Peterborough's mascot. I don't know if he's there anymore. It was literally just a man in a top hat and used to just walk around the pitch.
That was Barry Fry.
It wasn't Barry Fry. He would be a good mascot, but it was literally just a man walking around the pitch in a top hat with, one of those big stick things and just saying hi to people. It's nice. And finally, Billy Sharp is having a nice time in America. He's now scored 2 goals in 4 sub-appearances for LA Galaxy, 2 goals in 88 minutes. Not bad. But have you heard the chant the supporters have for him? It's Billy Sharp to the tune of Baby Shark. Oh, dear.
I like it.
Do you actually?
I like it, yeah. I absolutely like it. Not only can it's one of them that gets stuck in your head, and then you just walk in, taking a dog for a walk, and you just back your mind to Billy Sharp, Billy Sharp,
I'm not sure it would take off in England, would it? I'm not sure Bramall Lane.
Oh no, you get the piss taken out of you royally. You couldn't get away with it, but fair play. It's a unique chant, and that's what football needs.
Not sure I agree. It is a bit catchy, though, I will admit that. Not sure that's necessarily a good thing, though. Now it's time for this.
Scott High or Ryan Lowe?
Your little best is fucking shit, mate.
Billy Shop, do. Yes, it's time for Scott High or Ryan Lowe. This is the game where we have to rank 4 things from highest to lowest. There's 3 questions in total this week. It's Justin's turn to be providing the questions for myself. And I'm ready, Justin. Hit me.
Yeah, quite difficult when we've not had a lot of football over the last 2 weeks. So here we go. Promising. Which of these players has the highest goal conversion so far this season? Will Keane, Adam Armstrong, Josh Sargent, or John Swift? Obviously, put them in order.
Armstrong, Swift. Who's the other one?
Will Keane and Josh Sargent.
Okay, so my thinking first of all is Adam Armstrong, when he got like 28 goals or however many it was for Blackburn last time he was in the Championship, he was shooting a lot. Mm-hmm. So I will instantly put him bottom, even though I think, is he top scorer or is he joint top scorer? So he's bottom for me. I reckon Will Keane might be top, I don't think he's had many shots so far. Mind you, John Swift is a very random one for you to put in there. So that makes me think that he might be quite high as well. So what I'll do is I'll go John Swift top, Will Keane second, Josh Sargent third, Adam Armstrong last. Even though Armstrong and Sargent are both joint top scorers, or around there anyway, that doesn't necessarily translate into shot conversion.
So close, one off. You've got Armstrong and Sargent the wrong way round. You were right about John Swift. It was incredibly random.
So annoying.
Yeah, Swift's got 100% so far. He scored with every single shot he's taken, which is 3. Will Keane's got 50%. Adam Armstrong's got 40%. Now, I think a couple of years ago when he was shooting at any opportunity, it was around about 18% by the end of the season. So that might drop off. But Sargent has 33%. So good effort.
Didn't know John Swift had scored 3 goals from 3 shots. That's incredible. We'll have to keep an eye on that, Justin, this weekend. Yeah. What's the next one?
Which of these sides, or rank these sides in order as to who has created the most chances away from home so far this season?
Oh God, are they always going to be stats based? Your Scott High or Ryan Lowe's?
Like I said, because we've not had a lot of football, it
doesn't have to be.
Quite hard
be a bit more creative, Justin.
It's just hard to generate. After 2 weeks off, you know what I mean? Anyway, your teams are Leeds, Blackburn, Bristol City and Southampton.
Leeds, Bristol City was in there, weren't they?
They were.
Southampton, who was the other one?
Blackburn.
Okay. Well, I will put most chances, you say?
Most chances away from home.
Ugh, away from home. Have they all played the same amount of games away from home?
Probably not. I should have picked the teams that have.
Yeah, you really should have checked that, shouldn't you? In that case, then, Southampton have played 3 games away from home, so I will go Southampton top, just because they're quite good at creating chances. And then I reckon Leeds might be quite low there. Plus, they've only played 2 away games. So I am going to put Southampton top, Bristol City second, Blackburn maybe a bit of a false one because in that Watford game they did not create many chances at all. But I'll put them third, and then Leeds bottom.
You've got one right. It's Leeds you've got right. Them scoring 4 against Ipswich, I thought may have swayed it. Incredibly, Bristol City are top, then Blackburn, then Southampton, then Leeds.
Okay, fair enough. What's the last one?
Which of these sitcoms is the longest running?
Ooh.
It's a good one. It's Always Sunny, Modern Family, Big Bang Theory, and Curb Your Enthusiasm. Or rank them, I should say. Rank them in order of the longest running.
Well, I am a big It's Always Sunny fan. That's been going since 2005? Mid-2000s, we'll say. Modern Family's been going for a long time. Is that still going?
No, it finished a couple of years ago now, I think.
Did it? Okay. I reckon that must have started around the same time as It's Always Sunny. I'm not really sure when Curb Your Enthusiasm started. What's the other one?
Big Bang Theory.
Ugh. Never rated The Big Bang Theory.
Yeah,
I don't think it lasted that long either, as long as the others. So I'll put Big Bang Theory bottom, Curb Your Enthusiasm second bottom, Modern Family second, Always Sunny top.
So Big Bang Theory bottom, you said?
Yes.
That all completely wrong.
Fine.
All completely wrong. Curb Your Enthusiasm has been going for 23 plus years.
Yeah, I thought it might have been going a bit longer than I thought. I just don't know. I just didn't
110 episodes. Then it's Always Sunny, 18 plus years, 155 episodes. 2005, you were right on that. Then Big Bang Theory, 13 years it lasted. 2007 to 2020. Or
Too long.
Too long. 279 episodes, the most episodes in this list. And then Modern Family, 11 years, 250 episodes.
Only 11 years.
Only 11 years. Yeah, 2009 it started.
Yeah, I thought he started a lot earlier than that, I've got to say. Fair enough. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's been Scott High and Ryan Lowe. This has been the Second Tier Podcast. We'll be back again on Sunday to talk about all the games which are coming up this week. A big round of games, by the way. South Wales Derby, of course. Southampton v Leicester. That's a bloody big game, isn't it? So we look forward to seeing you then on Sunday. This has been the Second Tier Podcast. I've been Ryan Dilks.
I've been Justin Peach.
And a big thank you for listening.